And now for our next news special report.
Good evening, I'm Gary Franchi, and tonight we dive deep into a powder keg where one wrong move could ignite World War III. Hezbollah's brazen threats against Israel, escalating tensions at the Lebanon border, and the Biden administration's decision to possibly deploy U.S. Marine power in the region have all converged into a perfect storm of international concern. From a shocking explosion at a Gaza hospital to Iran's stern warning, the narrative is rapidly unfolding, and as the president lands in Israel amidst the chaos, the stakes couldn't be higher. You don't want to miss our in-depth analysis, and especially our final thought on why every American citizen should be paying very close attention to this evolving situation. This week, the world's eyes were glued to the Middle East. Lebanon-based Hezbollah terrorists, known for their aggression towards Israel, are ramping up their rhetoric, raising concerns about a possible escalation into an all-out conflict. Simultaneously, the Biden administration has not ruled out the deployment of U.S. military force if Hezbollah takes action against Israel. The situation has reached a boiling point, with the ominous shadow of World War III looming overhead. With recent missile exchanges between Hamas and Israeli defense forces, the situation even grows more precarious. These continuous volleys came on the heels of Hamas' aggressive attack on Israel on October 7th. The playing field gets even more complicated when you factor in the stern warning from Deputy Commander of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards. He cautioned that Israel could face another significant blow if it doesn't put an end to what they term as atrocities in Gaza. A recent surge of tensions at the Lebanon border keeps everyone on edge, especially with Hezbollah militants already in a gunfire exchange with Israeli defense forces. The Biden administration's contemplation of using military power against Hezbollah if they join the Gaza war has brought concerns right to the forefront. With Hezbollah's immense rocket arsenal, the involvement would indeed escalate the situation, possibly bringing in the United States and increasing the potential for civilian casualties in both Israel and Lebanon. This past weekend, the scenario further deteriorated when Israel retaliated by shelling Syria after 2 rockets were launched from the region. Iran's subsequent threat to intervene if Israel took aggressive actions in Gaza adds another layer to this already convoluted situation. Now, to give you a clear picture of the on-the-ground events, especially about the devastating airstrike on a Gaza hospital, not an airstrike, but a detonation, a misfire, let's turn now to Live Now from Fox for an update.
Well, this hospital strike was immense. We were actually able to speak to some IDF spokesperson who was able to relay some of the information that has been passed on throughout the night, but they wanted to confirm again to us that this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket that failed. That is what they're saying at this hour, that it was not a rocket or a missile that came from Israeli forces. Now, one of the questions we had for them, was this a rocket that was intercepted by the Iron Dome? Because this is a very small area again. Gaza Strip is roughly the size of Philadelphia. The Iron Dome can intercept rockets over Palestinian territory in the Gaza Strip. They're telling us again that this was a failed rocket that came down and tragically struck this hospital. They said that they saw it on their drones that were over the Gaza Strip at the time, and that it landed in the parking lot. Now, thousands of injured are in these hospitals. Thousands more are outside because they believe these hospitals are safe. They are refuge from the Israeli strikes that are peppering the city all around them. So many of the people that are around this hospital, many of the dead, are women and children who, again, were seeking refuge in this area to try and avoid strikes in other places. So right now, we're being told that it was not an Israeli strike from the Israeli Air Force or from a missile fired from all of the military equipment that we see dotted along the southern border right now with the Gaza Strip today. We see a massive amount of equipment that is staged, preparing for this ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. But again, they're telling us this was not the Israelis. This was a failed Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas, two in the same in the eyes of the Israelis and in the eyes of the United States. The State Department lists both groups as terrorist organizations.
Now, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has already signaled the severity of the situation by issuing a be ready to deploy order for 2,000 U.S. troops, positioning them in the eastern Mediterranean. This move clearly showcases that the administration is taking no chances and preparing for all possible outcomes. Now, in an attempt to negotiate and stabilize, President Joe Biden arrived in Israel. However, his trip hasn't been without its share of controversy. Biden's plans have been altered significantly, with Arab leaders refusing to meet him in the aftermath of the Gaza hospital event. This is a clear indication of the diplomatic fallout resulting from the hospital explosion. The situation outside the U.S. Embassy in Beirut has further aggravated. Reports indicate that riot police and tear gas were deployed against massive crowds brandishing Hezbollah flags, leading to fears of more significant unrest. With the already tensed Lebanon-Israeli border situation, the specter of Hezbollah's direct involvement in the conflict looms large. For more details on Biden's visit and the latest political undercurrents, let's take a look at global news.
In Gaza, did the president get on the plane?
He did, Donna, but no one knows what the situation will be like by the time he actually lands in Israel tomorrow. The reason being that he's already had to cut part of his trip short. He is no longer attending a summit in Jordan with the leaders of Jordan, Egypt, and the Palestinian Authority. They had backed out of meeting with Biden after that explosion at the Gaza hospital. That said, Biden is still pressing ahead with his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He has very specific goals in his meetings with the Israelis, specifically reassuring U.S. support for that country and trying to negotiate a humanitarian corridor out of Gaza, both for foreign nationals and to allow some sort of aid in. Biden is also said to want some sort of assessment of what Israel's military goals for its eventual ground invasion may look like to get a better understanding of what they are and what support the U.S. can provide.
Before his departure to Israel in a whirlwind turn of events, the White House scrapped the entire leg of Biden's Jordan visit. This abrupt cancellation coincided with Arab leaders announcing their reluctance to meet the president, chiefly because of the U.S. being Israel's primary funder and supporter. In an attempt to calm the surging emotions, Biden expressed his deepest condolences for the victims of the Gaza hospital explosion, as per the official White House statement. Joe Biden visited Tel Aviv to address the Gaza hospital blast through a written statement, though throughout a crucial dialogue, his gaze has mostly lowered. He referred to Hamas as the other team, liken it to a sports match. Clearly not his best moment. Take a look.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
You know, watching that clip, it's really a shame to see that this is the face of America in the face of World War III. The man looks like he's practically asleep at the wheel there. Not the projection of power that America needs to present at this time. In related news, and indicating the international repercussions of the recent events, both Russia and the UAE have called for an extraordinary UN Security Council meeting post the Gaza hospital explosion. Now let's move our focus to Beirut, Lebanon, particularly around the U.S. Embassy. The situation appears to be going from bad to worse. Reports are coming in thick and fast about protests brewing, and from what we understand, the atmosphere is extremely charged. Take a look.
Well, I've spoken to several of my sources, one in Amman, Jordan, that says there are protests outside the embassy there. Another in Istanbul, Turkey, also protests with hundreds taking to the streets. And a good friend of mine, a freelance journalist as well, Hunter Williamson, is outside the American embassy in Beirut. He's been sending me some of these images, which I believe you can see now. They're burning an auxiliary building near the compound to the embassy. They were dispersing these individuals earlier, the protesters, with water cannons and tear gas. The situation there appears to be deteriorating rapidly, and that's a major concern. Lebanon is a major concern. It's on the northern border with Israel, and it's where Hezbollah, another group that aims to target Israelis is teetering on the brink of getting involved in this fight. There have been border skirmishes, there have been deaths, there have been journalists that have been killed on that border covering the skirmishes with Hezbollah and IDF Israeli forces. This situation is a powder keg and has the potential to erupt and involve multiple players that stretch across Syria and Iran, and right now with this strike on the hospital, and tomorrow Hamas calling for an international day of rage. The concern at this hour is that the other players who have sat on the sidelines for the most part will in the morning, or right now as we speak, be mobilizing, being prepared to involve themselves in this war. And we have multiple fronts that the Israelis will be fighting. The American carrier groups are just off the coast in the Mediterranean. They have pledged their support to the Israeli cause. This could erupt into a much broader regional conflict, and within hours we could see the consequences of that.
This cascade of events has not only political but also human implications. Hezbollah has not minced words in denouncing what they claim to be Israel's assault on a Gaza hospital, resulting in massive Palestinian casualties. Their announcement of a day of unprecedented anger against Israel, especially during Biden's visit, sends a clear and potent message. Hezbollah's strongly worded statement lays blame squarely on Israel and, by extension, the United States for what they label as a massacre, while Israeli Defense Forces attribute the rocket misfiring to the Islamic Jihad, another militant group based in Gaza. Hezbollah's public denouncement is explicit and unambiguous. Their call for a day of rage has led to swelling crowds near the Lebanon-Israel border, sparking concerns about potential escalation and conflict. At this juncture, the primary question for everyone is, where does the Middle East go from here? For the answer, we must consider all sides of the argument, and even then, predicting the future is a daunting task. But there's one thing we can all agree on. The current scenario is deeply concerning. This unfolding narrative requires the world's attention, and as global powers intervene, we hope for a peaceful solution. The Middle East has once again become a focal point of the world's attention. With President Biden's visit to Israel, the pressure for a diplomatic resolution is immense. The world will be watching keenly over the next few days, hoping for a peaceful solution to this escalating crisis. In these critical times, the world looks to its leaders for strength, direction, and assurance. Unfortunately, President Biden's public missteps and stumbles on stages to difficulties on stairs project a concerning image. Perception matters, and the perception of a leader's physical frailty can often translate into a perceived vulnerability on the global stage. In an already volatile Middle East, a strong American presence is vital. Biden's noticeable weaknesses could not only exacerbate tensions, but also potentially make him a target for adversaries seeking to further destabilize the region. Every move, every gesture is under scrutiny, and any sign of vulnerability could embolden those with sinister intentions, pulling America deeper into this powder keg. It's a sobering reality to consider, but this world needs steadfast leadership now more than ever to prevent the spark that could ignite World War III.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.